Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our October 5th, 2021 Board of Commissioner meetings. Our first order of business will please stand and join me for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you, everyone. Bob, agenda review.
Mr. Chair, there are no changes to the agenda today.
I'll move the agenda.
Second.
Whitehammer.
Got a first and a second for the agenda. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion carries. Our next item is our economic development, so we'll need to recess for our EDA meeting. Do I have a motion to recess?
So moved. Second.
Got a first and a second to recess. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion carries. Good morning, Nancy. At this time, we will have a public hearing on the 2022 proposed PHA annual plan. This hearing provides an opportunity for citizens to submit their comments and recommendations for the proposed plan in a public setting. Nancy's here to give us a brief update on the plan and address any questions as needed. Nancy,
Mr. Chair, could I just interrupt? We probably need to call to order the EDA, and then
sorry.
we do have an agenda review and a couple other items.
Do you want a motion?
Yes.
I'll move that we open up the EDA.
And I'll second it.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Agenda review. Any additions, Bob?
There are no changes.
Got a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Got a first and a second, any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Minutes. Got a motion for the minutes?
I move the minutes.
Second.
Got a first and a second for the minutes, any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. All right, thank you, Bob, for that clarification. So at this time, we will have the public hearing on the 2022 proposed PHA annual plan. This hearing provides an opportunity for citizens to submit comments and recommendations for the proposed plan in public setting. Nancy is here to give us an update and answer any questions as necessary. Thank you, Nancy.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
And today we are going through the annual plan, and we do that every year, and that's a time when we can talk about the things we've accomplished and what we want to do for the next year. Also a time where we look at our policies and procedures and can update and make changes to those. This year we are bringing to you, as far as our program policies, our occupancy standards. And we really wanted to revise them just because as we transitioned from our public housing, moving into our Housing Choice Voucher program, our standards were different, so we wanted to combine them and make them the same. The other thing we found, especially now as we're doing more work with our community service agencies and transitioning people off of one program and onto our program, we're seeing that the guidelines were different. So we wanted to make sure that the guidelines that we were using matched what the community is using in general and with our public housing so that we can work more efficiently together. Our current occupancy guidelines were guidelines that were a little bit stricter in that because of a number of years back there was a shortfall in funding, so we had to be a little bit more stricter on that, so we controlled some of the subsidies we have. Right now HUD is funding us at 100% of what we need, so that's no longer an issue. And then some of the things that we were seeing in the policy had to do with, we were strictly going with fair housing, and we didn't want to discriminate against sex and determining who should live in what house or what bedroom and that type of thing for the families. We wanted the families to make those decisions. And what we found then is that we did allow a parent and a child to have a separate room, but once that child becomes 18, they're now an adult. And we were seeing where a parent and an adult child could share a same room, and other programs were not doing that. So we wanted to go back and give some separation there for different sexes. So we added that back into our policy that persons of opposite sex would not be required to share a bedroom except if you're a spouse or significant other. And then we do have it for children under 5 that they could share a bedroom with their parent or a sibling under 5. But then once they're over 5, they could have separate bedrooms based on sex. So that was traditionally what HUD had used, but they were trying to be more fair housing and giving more opportunities, so we had changes in the past. But just to keep it uniform across our community, we wanted to go back to using that policy.
Mr. Chair, so if you have 2 children that are 6 and 8, of the same sex, can they share a bedroom?
Yes.
Okay,
It would just be if they were opposite
Opposite
sex. They'd have
sex.
the opportunity to have that difference. So we're not mandating anything. Families can still choose. But
Okay.
it determined the bedroom size that we would offer that family. So giving families a little bit more choice on the type of housing that they wanted to choose.
thank you.
And then we did have a resident advisory meeting, and we actually held that yesterday. We invited approximately 70 participants, which is about 10% of our program, to attend the hearing or just the meeting to talk about how the program works. We only had one person attend, and that's not uncommon. Usually if we had, the last few years we probably had about 5 people on average coming. So we weren't surprised, but we were hopeful that we'd have had more people. But the person was very supportive of our programs and definitely supported the changes to the occupancy standards so that they were more uniform across programs. The person had lived there for 5 years and was really supportive of maintenance staff and them making sure to come and even pick up debris and stuff that fall into the woods behind their property and making sure that the place looked really nice and clean. They just asked for one thing for the staff to look at supporting the families that live there during the winter season and removing that snow, because there were some times that was really hard for her to remove all the snow from her parking area. Otherwise, she was very supportive. And we did talk about different things like Rent Help Minnesota and the PREP program for evictions, and very supportive of those programs. And she actually had used Rent Help Minnesota and was catching back up on some rent. So the program worked really well for her and helped her stay in her housing. So felt there was good support in our community for those type of things. This plan also includes information about RAD, and we did put that in the last time around, so that's still in the process. It will still keep the rents affordable for people in public housing, but it will transition the funding source from capital funds and operating funds to our Housing Choice Voucher tenant half payment to receive the assistance. We are going through the process from HUD, and we have the CHAP in place. We've completed our needs assessment. We're just waiting for the report from our consultant on the needs assessment, and then we'll be going into the financial plan stage with HUD. And we're hoping that within the next couple months that we can finish that process with HUD and have it submitted so that they can start allocating HAP funding for us starting the first of the year. So we're pushing out the time frame a little bit faster because we really wanted them to award us those funds by the end of the year. Otherwise, HUD was planning on us going through February and starting in February, but then that they don't get the awarded HAP funding right away. We'd have to wait till the following year to get that. So really working to try to make sure we get that done yet this year.
Mr. Chair, one more question. Do you do that through the Minneapolis office, or does it go to DC?
It does go through DC, and right now they've been working with a consultant that HUD hired. Our Minneapolis HUD office is a partner in the process, so they're always at our meetings too, but it is facilitated by a consultant that HUD has hired.
Okay.
We will at some point transition into a HUD team, but it will be a federal team.
Okay.
But they will work with our state office as well.
Thanks.
Yep. Any other questions on our agency plan?
Mr. Chair, I have a question. Do we have a waiting list?
We do have a waiting list.
How long is
For our
it?
Housing Choice Voucher, it's about 1.5 years, which is a really good time frame. We do have preferences, and definitely that has been a benefit in us serving families over the pandemic and taking a percentage of people off of the homeless response process, the coordinated entry system, and governmental displacement. When we had to close some of the shelters, we were able to use funding for that. So we've been able to funnel people from those preferences, yet still get people with no preferences being assisted through our program as well. So the 1.5 years is a really good time frame, considering there were periods of time where we were up to 5 years.
Wow.
So it's going really well, and we're able to keep the waiting list open, which is great.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay, other questions for Nancy before I open up the public comment?
I think you're doing a good job. It's not easy, especially nowadays, I guess, with the...
All right. Thank you, Nancy. At this time, I will open it up for public comment. Anyone wishing to comment, please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes or less, and if you're calling in via phone or Zoom, unmute your phone or Zoom, and we will acknowledge you and you can testify. Anyone wishing to comment on the PHA annual plan? Anyone wishing to comment on a PH annual plan for 2022? Seeing and hearing no public comment, I'll bring it back to the county board.
Mr. Chair, I'll move the
Motion.
resolution for the Public Housing
Okay.
Agency annual plan.
Second?
Got a first and a second. Any more discussion, questions, or comments? Good report, Nancy. Thank you. Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion carries. Now we're going to talk about a payment schedule.
Yes, so every year HUD does have us review the payment standards, and we do that based on reviewing the fair market rents that come out from the federal government. So our program sets our payment standards based off of HUD's fair market rents, and we do have to set our standards within 90 to 110% of the fair market. And so we do review that and review our program participants and see how they're managing at the current standards. So we look at funding available, that HUD is actually funding us at an appropriate level that we can continue to serve all the families that we have allocated. We look at the rent burdenness of our families. So our intent is to try to always have our families find units within the payment standards so that they pay 30% of their income towards the rent. They do have some flexibility in that. They can go up to 40% of their income, but definitely encouraging them that that 30% is the most affordable option for them. So we do review that, and even the 40% is at the time they first move in, and then after that, as rents increase, it becomes opportunities for the rents to be not as affordable for them even under our program. So that's what we're monitoring to see how many are rent burdened or paying more than their 30%. And what we try to do is to set the standard at a certain rate where the least amount of people are being affected. And so this year we looked at, we reduced the rent burdenness by 27% of our participants to keep them all within the affordability level. We also look at our community and see what kind of units are out there. And we know that 40% of the units within the community will qualify for the program, 60% don't. So we have a limited number of units that we know will qualify to help. So we try to look at that and see how we can impact that. And I know right now it's been a very tight housing market. We have less than 1% vacancy rates for affordable units. And we know families are struggling to find housing. Even during the pandemic, one-bedrooms are really hard to find. If we could have found enough one-bedrooms, we could have ended the homelessness for a lot of single gentlemen in our community. So we knew that those are some issues that we were taking into consideration. And then the time it has taken for people to lease up. We usually give them 60 days to find housing. We can expand that to 4 months. And so we have been doing that, and even with the pandemic, we've extended that. HUD has given us waivers. So some families have been taking 6 to 9 months to find housing, just because with limited number of units, some of those that are harder to serve aren't able to get to be the first choice in those units. So all that played a factor in us determining what we'd set them at. And last year, HUD did not raise the fair market rent, so we kept our standards the same. So this year, it gives us a little bit more opportunity to increase them because HUD increased the fair market rents. And we try to keep the standards around 105%. So if HUD the next year decides that they're not going to give us an increase, we have a little bit of a buffer so we don't actually have to lower rents. We can keep them the same. So right now I'm projecting that our standards will be between 5 and 7% of the fair market rent, still within a good range. And it's definitely going to make a huge impact on the families looking for housing. So some of the rents went up. I think the efficiency went up by $60, but we don't have a lot of efficiencies. The 1 and 3 bedrooms went up on average about $90. So it's a good increase for families to be able to find more affordable units. So I have provided you here with the schedule that shows you the breakdown of the new standards, increasing them by that roughly $90. The 5 and 6 bedrooms didn't really raise and didn't really have an impact on those that are participating in a 5 or 6 bedroom. There's not that many of them, sure. And the rents were reasonable. And our standards are still slightly above the fair market rent, so I thought we were in good shape with those 5 and 6 bedrooms. But the 1 through 4 were important ones to make sure we address. Do you have any questions on the payment standards?
Any questions or comments?
I have a comment. Just, I'm glad to see an additional 3-bedroom. And we went from, what, 15 to 16 3-bedroom apartments. Maybe I read it wrong.
I'm not sure what.
It's on page 12. Pre-conversion and post-conversion. It doesn't matter. I was just pleased to see that.
Okay.
Because I know 3 bedrooms are
More difficult.
More
Hard to
difficult,
find,
yeah.
You know, we get, I'm constantly getting people asking me, how can we be short in housing when all we're doing in Mankato is building apartments? And I told them, well, we are. And, but I'm wondering, is it because of such a boom that we're having in this area with people? Because, I mean, obviously, anywhere you go, you'll see new apartments being built.
Yeah, I think you see this all across Minnesota, too. It's not even just a local concern, it's across and it's probably nationwide as well. We're just not building it fast enough to meet the demand. So we're seeing building, but it's not near what we would need to do. If we doubled what we were doing, we'd be in better shape. I think even when you're looking at it, some of the market rates are out there, and they can manage in some of those units, but we're not seeing those affordable units being constructed, and that's where, like, with our tax credits, we know we can only get one, maybe two each year, funded with all of our subsidies coming together, and that's just not enough to meet our needs, so we have to look at other ways, and that's where we're even trying to look at existing units and trying to rehab them and make them desirable units for people to be able to continue to rent and keep them long-term, because those are going to be our affordable units. These new ones are going to cost a lot more money for families to live in. So I think that's kind of what we're looking at. We really try to manage that affordable side because the market rate is kind of managing on its own, but there just isn't enough affordable housing. Like I said, when we had one-bedroom units, we had 30 people looking, and we had 5 units. So you can just see that the demand for people looking for housing is still really big, and we're not building enough is what we need. So it seems like we are, but we're really not hitting the demand that we need to keep going at.
That's unbelievable.
It is.
All right. Any other questions for Nancy? The payment standard schedule for 22? Have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I got a first and a second, adopting the payment standard schedule for the Blue Earth County EDA. Any other questions or comments, discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. I
Thank
think
you.
that's everything on our list today,
Thank you,
Nancy.
Nancy.
Thank you very much for your reports and all your work. And congratulations.
Yeah.
Thanks, Nancy.
I'll
Good
move
pick.
we adjourn.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Oh, second.
Got a motion and a second to approve the EDA. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. We will reconvene our regular board meeting. And next item on our list is drainage. Good morning, Craig.
Good morning.
Morning, Craig.
Good morning.
Morning, Craig.
Real simple today here. We are setting up, just setting the dates for 2 hearings all here. First one is Subject County Ditch 89 redetermination benefits and a repair hearing. The purpose of County Ditch 89 was first established in 1962 in Pleasant Mountain and Shelby Townships. And September 11th, 2018, the Drainage Authority appointed viewers to prepare a redetermination of benefits. On September 1st, 2021, the viewers presented the viewers' report to the Property and Environmental Resources Department. At today's meeting, the Blue Earth County Drainage Authority, we are requesting the Drainage Authority approve the findings and orders setting the hearing date for November 2nd, 2021, and that'll be at 9 o'clock.
Okay,
So moved.
Second.
got a first and a second, setting the date at November 2nd at 9 o'clock, 2021. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
Okay. And the second one was on County Ditch 75, redetermination benefits for the repair, and it's probably no repairs, but it'll be a redetermination of benefits. County Ditch 75 was first established in 1929 and is in Pleasant Mountain and Shelby Townships. On September 11th, 2018, the Drainage Authority appointed viewers to prepare a redetermination of benefits. On September 1st, 2021, the viewers presented the viewers' report to the Property and Environmental Resources Department. At today's meeting, the Blue Earth County Drainage Authority, we are requesting the Drainage Authority approve the findings and order setting a hearing date for November 2nd, 2021.
Move to approve.
Second.
Just a point of clarification, got a first and a second, but at 9 o'clock.
9 o'clock, yes.
Okay.
It's part of the order, yeah.
Yep. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion carries. Thank you, Craig.
Thanks,
Thanks, Craig.
Oh,
Can I ask Craig a quick question?
Sure.
Well, we got here, part of my report for committees, we talked about some, with Ditch 56, we've got the survey out,
Yep.
a little bit on that. And who did that go to, or how did we distribute that? I mean, certainly we want to hear from everybody we can, those that provided emails at the meeting, I'm sure.
The emails, I think they actually kind of presented in such a way that anybody could go online.
Okay.
And I'm assuming that we'll see a lot of the people, some of the people are very active.
So it's
in
not
the
a
organizations.
limited
I don't believe so. I
perspective
believe
that we're looking for. Anybody that wants to can do the survey.
that is my understanding, yes.
Hopefully they're affected by it at some point.
Yes.
Not living in Minneapolis or something like that. So. All right, thank you.
Yep.
thank you, Craig.
Thanks, Craig.
All right, our next item is the Public Works. Ryan.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning,
Good
Ryan.
morning, Ryan.
Morning, Ryan.
How was Ryan today?
Doing well. How about yourselves?
Good.
Good. So we've got a handful of action items today for consideration and then some information and discussion topics. So I'll get started with the first one is consideration of final payments for State Aid Project 007610027 and others. This is for our 2021 bituminous overlays contract. And the final payment amount per the request is $29,332.56 for a total contract amount, work certified $2,933,255.71. I would recommend approval of the final payment to Minnesota Paving Materials.
Move to approve.
Second.
Got a first and a second to approve the final payment for the overlays for $29,332.56. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries for the overlays.
All right. The next item, action item number 2, is consideration of final payment for State Aid Project 007-617-018, which is our County State Aid Highway 17 and Hafner Drive roundabout. The reason this one is a couple of years behind is because we had a warranty on the plantings within the roundabout island that we wanted to ensure that we got our full 2-year warranty on the plantings, that they were maintained per the contract requirements. So the total work certified to date for the contract is $1,753,932.61, and total final payment amount for the final voucher would be $7,243.30 to OMG Midwest, aka Minnesota Paving and Materials.
Move to approve.
Second.
Got a first and a second for the 17 and Hafner Drive roundabout final payment. Any discussion?
It certainly is working well.
Absolutely.
That's a
Would
great
agree.
roundabout. I tell you, the safety aspects of that roundabout compared to what it was before is amazing. So I'm pretty happy to get this one put away.
Yes.
Actually, yeah, a big improvement. Yeah. It's really nice.
It is.
Okay, there's no other discussion. I got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the motion carries for the Hafner Drive roundabout final payment.
Okay. So then with that, the action item number 3 is an intent to cost participate agreement between Blue Earth County and the City of Vernon Center. This is for reconstruction of County State Aid Highways number 10 and 72 in the City of Vernon Center. The agreement is structured so that the city will be the lead agency because they have a large project that's going to encompass about 1/3 of the city for reconstruction, major components of water, wastewater. They're receiving funding from the USDA. So because of the complexity of their project and that ours really is only a portion of it, similar to what we've done in past projects with that situation, we've actually had the city and their engineer take the lead on it. Also, we've got our hands full with construction in the following year. So with that being said, they're working on the design of the project, but we do have obviously our cost participation where we'll pay for 90% of the county state aid highway eligible items, which is your road, sidewalk, curb and gutter, et cetera. And then the city has to pay for 100% of their costs, which is their city utilities, as well as 90% of the county stated highway eligible items. So with that being said, the project will have some different design constraints because the city's got a lot of different needs through town. As you go 10 through town, the design is that the road will be 40-foot wide, which would match similar sections that we've constructed in other communities. As you look at CASA 72, the portion of Main Street adjacent to the lumberyard will be 44 feet wide. We've coordinated that with the city. The next block will be 40 feet wide, and then there's actually a block, I believe it's called East Street, where it's more of a residential street because 72 does a 2-block loop through town, I should say a 5-block loop. That'll be 35 feet wide, match really what the city standards are. So we've worked through that process. We will be bringing a subsequent cooperative construction agreement to the county board and the city council for approvals. As you recall, our methodology is that we enter into the intent to cost participate agreements to monument our intent to work together and share the preliminary engineering costs up to the point where we have that engineer's estimate and can send it out to bid. So I would recommend approval of the agreement that's included in your packet.
Okay,
So moved.
Second.
got a first and a second for the Vernon Center cost participation agreement. Any discussion?
Chair, I guess I just want to again thank Ryan, you and your
Thank you.
whole department for coming out and getting a bird's eye view of what some of the concerns were and working with the city. That's much appreciated.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Any questions or comments? Okay, I got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries for the Vernon Center cost participation agreement.
All right. And then the last action item included in your packet is a local bridge replacement program grant agreement. This is for County State Aid Highway number 7 bridge just south of the city of Mapleton. This is for bridge replacement, and the LBRP funds that will be used from the state bonding is $246,081. So we need to complete this grant agreement in order to request funds for the project.
Do I have a motion to accept?
So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries for the CASA 7 bridge.
All right. So informational item updates, please jump in at any time with questions or comments. Project updates, County State Highway 27, reconstruction from 14 to 2. This is up to the North County line. Striping was completed yesterday. Crews will be there today installing signs. We're hopeful to open the road either today or tomorrow once all of the signs are up, so it's just going to be dependent on the process. The contractor will have some work to complete after we open the road. The turf establishment contractor's been kind of the hang-up. They're just struggling with labor. Getting 6.5 miles of new road completed with the amount of erosion control blanket we were required to put in is very labor intensive, and they don't have a lot of help, so they're going to complete the remainder of that work under traffic. Mathewitz will also have to finish excavation of the cemetery pond, which would be the triangular parcel west of the cemetery and highway, and kind of kitty corner with old Highway 14 and new Highway 14 in the cemetery. So they'll complete that, and then we're actually going to take that excavation volume is extra. We're going to actually stockpile that on the corner of County State Highway 12 and 26, and then incorporate that into the 12 project next year on a parcel of land that the
That's
county
good.
has. Yep.
Yeah.
So we needed some fill for that project anyway, so it worked out very well. So there'll be some work happening even after the road's open, but we're very excited living right on top of that project. I'm more than ready to see it open.
Yes.
Up, so.
Well, the pond won't matter because that's off the road.
Right, absolutely.
Any
Other
more
than-
issues
other than
with
the truck.
people thinking it's open already?
You know, the law enforcement presence has greatly helped, and it also brought attention to the fact that people were running the stop sign at County State Highway 26 as they cross 27, which has always been a stop control, and I've heard other complaints about that, so it was good to get law enforcement out there. So very big thank you to the County Sheriff's Department for sending the men in the brown trousers out there to help us out. So
That helps.
yes. 27, in the city of Eagle Lake, the road is paved from Thomas Drive to County State Highway 17. There's still some minor sidewalk work wrapping up, and then crews are installing under drain, and they'll begin aggregate base on Phase 3, which is 17 north to our County State Highway 55. So that we anticipate aggregate gravel will be going back in next week, or with maybe even the end of this week. We did revise the contract completion date from September 29th to October 29th because Dirt Merchant has been working on the project steadfast. However, there were some significant delays associated to the utilities relocating, primarily the gas, and that really slowed them down at the onset of the project, so we thought it was fair to give them a time extension. They've done a good job with maintaining access for residents and coordinating and communicating with the people out there, so all in all, I think the project's going fairly well. And as a reminder, the final wearing course will be placed in 2022. That's fairly common in city street projects, and as you know, on our rural county state highways, generally will place the final wearing course a year or two after the fact as well. However, we just do it under a separate overlays contract. So, CSAH 82, Victory Drive from Stadium Road to Hoffman. Traffic signals are anticipated to be installed the first week in November. So we just got the notice that they anticipate manufacturing will be completed right at the end of October. So by the time we give them time to ship and be installed, that's the time frame we're looking at. Fortunately, my observation, I haven't had any complaints about the three-way stop for the time being. I don't think all of the traffic has found its way back to Victory yet, but the three-way stop seems to be working adequately as an interim measure.
Yeah, I went through the intersection the other day and it didn't seem that bad.
Yeah. Mr. Chair, one of the questions I've gotten is, it used to be that automatic turn lane, there were two.
Yep.
And they're saying, why did you take that away? Because there's one that goes straight, and then there's a turn lane, and once the track, are they going to be able to automatically turn there, or are they going to have to wait for the light?
They'll have to come to a stop. And the reason we did that was twofold, because really the free right wasn't warranted when you look at the traffic volumes that were using it. Secondly, it was a safety concern because of the speed that people come around free rights on when they had the trail crossing, because now we extended the trail farther to the south. So now you have a trail crossing and you're going to have pedestrians introduced to a situation where they didn't before. And really actually even third, the crossing distance was less safe because now it was a much wider crossing. So there were several components that went into that decision. And we knew there'd be some concern of why the free right went away, because they are very convenient.
Oh, yeah.
But from a safety standpoint and an operational standpoint, it still works well as designed. It's just it's a change, right?
Somebody might have to take 5 more seconds to get through.
I don't disagree. Those are the questions I'm getting.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah.
I get the same ones.
Yeah. And then somebody else said, well, why don't you keep those stop signs up, because then people pay attention.
Yeah.
It's easier to get through. It has been easy to get through.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Yeah.
those are just some of the comments I
I
got.
think we'll see traffic pick up again to where the stop signs will start to become challenging,
Oh,
but
I
they
agree.
work great now for
Yeah.
interim, I agree.
Yeah.
Okay, County State 8 Highway 1 from 9 to 90. Soil nail walls construction is underway. We actually just hosted the Minnesota State University Mankato Civil Engineering Senior Geotechnical Engineering class
Ooh.
on site last week. And we had representatives from GSI, which is our soil nail wall contractor. We had about 20-some students come out to the site for a couple of hours and actually get to see the work and touch the bar that's going in and see the drill heads and see the concrete being placed. So, and thanks to Mathwitz Construction too, we actually had Brian and Brett Mathwitz were able to join us on site and help us with the tour. So it was really neat for the students to be able to see the view from the contractor that's doing the work, from the general contractor, from the contracting agency. So it's kind of fun to be able to offer those opportunities for them to get hands-on learning.
You bet.
Yeah. What a
So,
great
good
opportunity
stuff,
for
yeah.
the students. That's
Yeah.
great. I know that you have a really good relationship with the engineering department at MSU, and I think that's such a positive for everybody.
Thank you. It's been fun to stay connected with my alma mater.
Mhm.
So the top of the chute to CASA 9 is ready for pavement. We're awaiting paving crew availability. It's getting to be that time of the year where they've got a lot of work to do and not a lot of time to get there. But it is based out, ready to go, so access is not an issue for the residents that live on top of the hill there. There's also a small reinforced soil slope wall adjacent near to the Marble property that should be completed this week. And then Mathewitz is working on storm sewer through the chute to the north and south. And the hang up there, they'd actually like to bring a second crew in, but material availability for manholes and pipe is challenging, which has been everything this year. You kind of throw a dart and what's going to be the next thing that's going to be in material inavailability.
Mr. Chair, do you see that changing, or do you think this is the way we're going to live from now on?
I hope it's not, because it's really hard to get stuff done.
Yeah.
I hope we get back to more of a semblance of normal. There was always lead time but it used to be you could say, well, we want this sequence of these pipes and manholes made, and they'd kind of feed you an order of how you're going to construct it, and now the contractor's having to hopscotch all over based on just what they get. So it's frustrating in that regard, and then there's so many things that just all of a sudden they're unavailable versus the ones that we're accustomed to being a long lead time. The 7 bridge replacement project, the bridge deck will be poured this afternoon, so that project's come along very nicely. The concrete railing, minor site grading, and paving will be yet to be completed. So, County State Highway 40, 141, and 169 bridge replacement project, will bid those in winter or spring. 7 in Mapleton, which is a 2022 project. We're reviewing the 95% plans that were provided by Stonebrook. After those, any revisions or comments are made, those will be submitted to MnDOT for approval. The city will have a little bit of right-of-way to acquire for easements for sidewalk, et cetera. And we intend to bid that in January or February of 22. So that's tracking right along. We'll also have to bring a cooperative agreement forward as we get to bidding. 10 and 72, I touched on that. I don't know if there's any additional comments, otherwise I'll gloss over that. 11 from 20 to Minnesota Highway 68 in the northwest part of the county. 80% plans were done by staff, so we've been developing those. We've been coordinating again on the east end. There's been some more significant impacts to landowners because of the curve as it comes into State Highway 68 was on quite a Y skew. We wanted to bring it in as close to perpendicular as possible, so we made a set of revisions after we met with landowners and showed them our first cut, and we were able to tighten it up, reduce the impacts to a point where I think we found a reasonable compromise. So we're beginning the right-of-way acquisition process. Jack is setting up meetings with landowners, so excited to have that process going, because that is a very time-consuming, and with the limited staff we have that can do that work, it's a lot of landowners on a 6+ mile long project that Jack has to meet with and try to buy land from. So we're looking forward to getting that moving and out to bid in the spring. 12 from CASA 26 East to CASA 2. The 90% plans are expected this week from Bolton and Mink. And when additional staff return from the office from construction, we're going to begin right-of-way acquisition. So we've been fortunate. Ryan's been training under Jack and has been working on right-of-way acquisition as well. So it's really nice to be able to have 2 of them for the time being going and working through it, especially with the heavy workload that we've had the last couple of years. So. And then the last project update, CASA 16 from Le Sueur River. Staff are it's kind of been put on the side burner, and we'll resume design of that after construction season ceases. Unfortunately, that project just kind of keeps getting pushed back due to higher priority projects, but we're still hopeful to have that out under construction next year. Just some quick maintenance activity updates. The crews will be completing the County Road 133 center line pipe and drop structure replacement. We're also going to flatten the in-slopes as a safety improvement as we're out there and reshaping things, putting it back together. They're going to be removing the former Meadow Church parking area that runs along County State Highway 53. I know a couple of commissioners have met with us on that subject matter. And access will be left for the church building, so it'll be shaped and the pavement will be left in, so it'll be equivalent to a driveway. And then we'll also be removing the parking along the road adjacent to the cemetery. And we've coordinated with the cemetery committee they're going to construct basically a horseshoe driveway in the cemetery that'll actually be safer, better parking for funerals, et cetera. We're working on fall patching and shouldering throughout the county, continuing mowing shoulder and back cuts. And as I think my rural commissioners are aware, we've obviously have struggled with blading our gravel roads. We haven't had enough moisture to get out there, and if we go out when it's dry, we're just going to put flour back on top of the road, and it's actually going to make it considerably worse than if we leave it intact with washboarding, et cetera, or potholes. So we are very aware of that, and as we get moisture events, rain, things like that, we want to get out, get those roads reshaped before winter freeze up, and try to get as many of them smoothed out and put back together as possible. So we're very aware of it. We're frustrated as well that the conditions just haven't been right to get out there. And it seems like even if we do get a little shot of rain, it seems like it falls on a Friday night or a Saturday, and then by Monday it's drier than a bone again. So
Yeah, and it needs something we can go out and prepare. I mean, it takes
Yeah.
more moisture than a.
if we were going to try to haul,
moisture truck.
if we're on a water truck
Truck,
out there, we'd have to really saturate it, and that'd take a lot of.
Yeah. By the time you got far enough down the road to where you started would be dried up again.
Yeah, the best you do with those is to keep the dust down, really. We're also going to start replacement of a centerline culvert on County Road 138 and improve the inslopes this year. And the other thing is just a heads up, there's a industry-wide shortage of traffic marking paint. So we were fortunate to get our striping contract done this year, in all honesty. However, we've got all of the stop heads or stop bars or arrows. We can't find paint to touch those up this year. So it's a high likelihood we may not be able to get those done this year. It's befuddling, maybe is the word I'm looking for.
Well, it's just one thing after another. I mean, it's, you know, we have our computer chips that we can't get. Now we have iron and cement and this.
Yep.
Now it's marking paint. Is this all coming from another country, or what's?
Yeah, I can't answer that one honestly, where the traffic marking paint's coming from.
Yeah.
So much of it seems like a lot of it stems back to shortages of truck drivers as well.
Yeah, it's
Within it.
labor. I don't know if it's so much the materials, it's just trying to get the labor to build the stuff and
Yeah.
deliver it.
I read an interesting statistic the other day. It said 55% of respondents on a pretty significant survey intended to apply for other jobs this year. And that was pretty concerning when you think about just the disruption that is in the labor and the workforce, and poor HR people having to try to help find new people. So,
Yes, there's a lot of opportunity.
yes, absolutely. Last but not least, a quick update on the Rapidan Dam report. BAR is working on the final report body and calculations, as well as doing some correspondence with the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources and the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency. We'll be presenting to the county board in a draft format on October 19th at the work session. So we've got quite a chunk of time carved out there to present both the removal and repair option studies to the board, as well as discuss the potential lease option if we do move forward with the repair study, or option, I should say. And then the final report, our objective is to have that prepared and ready for the November 9th work session. And it would offer an opportunity between the initial presentation prior to the final one, if other items come up that maybe weren't taken into account in the odd circumstance that could happen, we can incorporate maybe some of that into the report or answer any questions along the way. So to offer the board a lot of opportunity to engage and ask questions.
This would seem like a good year to get some of that taken care of because the river is so low.
Would have been, yes.
But who knows what's going to be there next year?
Right.
When we can do it.
Yeah, the timing wasn't great, but I think that making sure we really evaluate it properly before throwing a couple $1 million at it is requires a lot of due diligence, and unfortunately, yes, with a dry year like this, it would have been a good year to go in and do repairs, but we got to make sure that's the right step for the future of the county and the dam.
Whatever the decision is, it's not going to be cheap.
Correct.
No.
Or popular.
Yeah, that's right, that's
I keep
right.
on asking somebody if they want to buy it from us for $1.
You haven't found any takers yet, though, have you?
I'd be willing to give it to somebody.
Okay, well, that wraps up my report unless there's any additional questions.
Any other questions for Ryan?
And Ryan, thank you very much
Yes.
for the fly-in.
Oh, yes, thank
This
you.
last week, Ryan was a huge help, not only for Blue Earth County, but for the state of Minnesota. He came up with a lot of questions, a lot of stuff for the whole Transportation Alliance Board. So thank you very much for all your help there.
Appreciate it.
And thank you for connecting with the gentleman
yes.
who had some questions about why we didn't have a roundabout as opposed to semi-doors. So
Yes, no problem.
appreciate it.
Anytime. Have a good day.
All right, tell your staff to stay safe out there this fall.
What was that, Walters Act or?
All right, looks like we're down to Pat, County Attorney's update.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Commissioners, if anybody has any specific questions relating to the port, I'll be more than happy to try to address that. One matter that we're working on, I've been working with Jessie, and she's waiting for me to get some additional information back to her. A project that we're going to undertake, it deals with expunging people's records when it comes to the lower level crimes and whatnot. And I was reminded of this, Ryan's talking just a little bit ago about shortages of materials and whatnot. I know that there's a labor shortage out there. I think we've had that discussion many different times. And yesterday I was just reminded and received a phone call from the drug court coordinator that a past participant that had done very well, graduated from the program over 5 years ago, went back, received a degree in a technology-related field, and then this individual who's been working now for 5 years, for a few years in that field, can't get a job with a different company because of a prior conviction that could be expunged. And this is something that typically the individuals that need this, because it's a collateral consequence. Again, these are not serious crimes. These are crimes that have been impediments to some people for employment, for housing, those types of things. We will be one of the handful of counties that will be offering this because the legislature a few years ago changed part of the expungement process and added more things to the list that can be expunged. And then the people that typically need the assistance don't have the financial wherewithal to hire somebody to do it, and it's a very cumbersome system. So we will be taking that on and assisting those that will be, and hopefully we're going to get that up on the website within a couple of weeks. So, but I just wanted to bring that to your attention.
Mr. Chair, what types of things can be expunged? I assume there's a long list. But
There is
I was just kind of curious.
There's a very long list, but typically the ones that we see the most are drug-related, controlled substance-related. You get into some of the theft crimes. The theft crimes can be the impediments to many different things because, an example, and I've probably used this before, and this was a few years ago, we had two individuals in our Veterans Court that went out to the Walmart distribution center. I think I heard advertised just yesterday that they're offering $29 an hour part-time. But in any event, these two had significant histories in drugs related and whatnot. One was able to get the job and one was not. And the one that couldn't is it because they had a theft-related conviction. And most lower-level theft convictions can be expunged from a person's record. And it's those types of cases, the disorderly conducts, the underage consumptions, and it's those types of collateral consequences. And I've gotten calls before from people about that. It's just like, well, that's not the United States, but there's nothing we can do about that. But no, this should be helpful for the individuals that need it. And like I say, we will join 4 other counties that will be doing this.
That's good. That's good.
That's exciting.
Any other questions, concerns, or comments? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Pat. Thank you very much. All right, that looks like we're down to administration. Bob?
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, the first item is the County Board minutes for September 21st.
I think you had to be here.
So moved.
I don't think I.
Second.
Got a first and a second for the minutes. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
Next are the bills for the 2 weeks indicated.
I move the bills.
Second.
Got a first and a second for the bills. Any discussion, questions, and comments that haven't been answered? Hearing none, all in favor for the bills?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, item number 8 in your packet is the Human Resources Department agenda. I just have informational items for the board today. We filled a number of positions, including a clerical specialist in our parks area, a medium equipment operator in our Public Works Department, as well as a human services supervisor overseeing the billing team and child support and human services. Then we had a promotion of a probation officer 1 to a probation officer 2, and a lateral transfer of a public health nurse to a disease and emergency preparedness specialist in the public health unit. So we've initiated recruitment to refill the public health nurse, and then we had a number of resignations, starting with a correctional officer. So we've initiated recruitment to refill that correctional officer in the jail. We also had a resignation of a license center specialist in the license center, and so we've initiated recruitment to refill that position. And then we had a resignation of our IT security administrator and have initiated recruitment to fill that. Lastly, we had a resignation of a library clerk, a part-time clerk in the library, and so we've initiated recruitment to refill that position. I'd be happy to answer any questions the board might have about the human resources agenda.
Are most of the resignations, are they finding jobs in other places? Do you know, or?
The IT administrator was going back to a former employer, so that certainly is pursuing that. I don't know about the correctional officer. That individual actually had retired from another job, and so may just be done, but I don't know that for sure. And then the license center specialist, I don't know what that person's plans are.
I'm just wondering if it's because of our pay scale, if people are moving on, or if there's other reasons.
Seems to be a lot of different reasons, like even the part-time library clerk, they're reaching the end of their educational plan, and so they're, kind of looking at an internship, and that conflicted with their work here at the library. So it runs the gamut. Certainly, there's a lot of opportunity out there.
And we have a continuous, and this is statewide with the corrections officers.
Yeah.
I mean, that's statewide, national.
Yeah.
Nationally, there's issues, and number one, it's a hard job, and the pay is not up there like the, sheriff's deputies and stuff. But it's a hard job.
We have some plans to meet with the sheriff's office tomorrow to continue our efforts to try and end that revolving door that we've seen. But, some of it is related to the people we're hiring. They're quality people, and they have other opportunities, especially in the law enforcement field with the retirements that are happening there. So again, there's a lot of reasons. There's not always easy solutions.
Corrections sometimes is a stepping stone to a lot of other places, so I understand that.
If there are no other questions, I'll move on to item number 9 in the packet. There's a memo there regarding a request from the Property and Environmental Resources Department for the board's approval of a proposed environmental assessment worksheet review fee. This was a fee that was discussed with the county board at a work session in September, and at that time there seemed to be consensus from the board to move ahead with establishing a fee for that environmental assessment worksheet review, setting the fee at $700 for up to 10 hours of review. If the review requires more than 10 hours, the additional per hour charge would be $75. And then if we have to hire outside contractors to help with the review, those expenses would be forwarded to the applicant as well.
Move to approve.
Okay, got a motion to have a second.
Second.
Okay, got a motion and a second for the application fee for the assessment worksheet. Discussion. As Bob already mentioned, we talked about it a couple weeks at the meeting. This is unfortunately another layer of government, but I support this. It's something that I think we have to deal with. Not so much the fee, but when we pass the resolution for environmental worksheets. You hate to slow people down on projects, but sometimes this stuff needs to just get an extra set of eyes looked at it and make sense to move forward with it. If there's no other questions or comments, got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion passes for the environmental assessment worksheet reviews or fees.
Well, Mr. Chair and Commissioners, I have number 10 in your packet is a memo from the Sheriff's Department requesting approval and amendment for the Minnesota River Valley Drug Task Force Joint Powers Agreement. My understanding is there's been no changes to the Joint Powers Agreement, but because of the grant requirements, it just does require additional approval by the county board to reaffirm the commitment to the joint powers.
So moved.
Got a first and a second for the River Valley Drug Task Force Joint Powers Agreement. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries for the Valley Drug Task Force. I think that brings us to the end of our agenda, other than the committee reports. Bob, do you have anything else?
I do not, Mr. Chair.
Okay. With that, we will do committee reports. I think I'll start to my left with Colleen today.
Okay. Just a couple comments first. Denny Kemp's funeral is at Northview at 11 o'clock on Saturday. Lynn Barnes' funeral is at 2 o'clock on Saturday at Mankato Mortuary. Just so anybody who's listening might hear that. On the 24th, I had a Mapping Prejudice Committee, and we're talking about, how the deeds are read. Mankato State, whichever, Min State at Mankato, I guess it's called, and West High School are going to be using some students to do that. Plus, we want to get the community engaged a little later, but just trying to figure out what's the best process to use. We're also working with the University of Minnesota in order to figure that out. On the 28th, I had the Airport Commission. They're excited that 26 is going to be done next year, and not when the big event at the airport is in 2023. At the Y board that day, we're getting feedback from a consultant as to the Shopko building. We'll see what that feedback is and if it's something that the Y is even interested in. And that evening I had Highland Park. The speaker was the city manager, Susan Arntz. And she did a really nice job, but then took some questions. And one of the questions was about a county road, so she graciously gave that to me. And Ryan is responding to the person. On the 30th, I had a call, NACO call on the elections and the Klobuchar Mansion bill. So we are looking at how that works and how it's going to be rolled out, and where NACO, how will NACO participate in that? Because, as you all know, for all intents and purposes, counties run elections. And so it's really important that we have a voice in that. I want to go back to the 27th. I was on an AMC call. They're looking at doing mediation training They're looking at the end of January. It might be something that people are interested in. Commissioners get first bite at that apple. And the other thing is Heather Bandine is leaving, unfortunately.
Again?
Yeah, she's going to go to Sourcewell. They're moving up north, and so that's a loss. And that's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Colleen.
Thank you.
Vance?
Well, the 21st, 22nd, and 23rd, I spent in Washington DC, had the Transportation Alliance fly-in. We were able to meet with most of our congressional staff and had talks from Senator Klobuchar and Senator Smith. Was I thought, a very productive meeting. Myself and County Engineer Ryan Tilges went from Blue Earth County. Sadly, Colleen wasn't
I was
feeling
sick.
good, so she couldn't show up. But it was one of the better fly-ins that I've been to over the years. Other than that, I had kind of a slow 2-week period. We had a Board of Directors meeting for the Transportation Alliance on the 29th. And let me see here. I had a NACO membership committee meeting on the 1st. And let's see, myself and Commissioner Pifo showed up at the Vietnam Traveling Wall on Friday, the 1st, and they had a ceremony there, and it was a great ceremony. And if I think that traveling wall now is gone. I think yesterday was the last day, but that was that's one amazing thing to see. It's even more amazing at Washington D.C. when you see it there. It's really huge, and if you read the information that they have there, it really tells you a lot about the conflicts and stuff that the United States have had over the years. But that's the end of my report.
Thank you, Vance. Kevin?
Since our September 21st board meeting, I attended the 5th Rural Minnesota Energy Board meeting, and citizen concerns. I've heard some about the Ditch 56 survey. We covered that already. Appreciate staff and others working together to get that out. So that concludes my report.
Thank you, Kevin. Mark?
And went pretty short too after the board meeting, and like on the 23rd did have Partners for Affordable Housing meeting, and yeah, like Vance, I had the Cost of Freedom Vietnam Memorial I went to, did visit with Commissioner Tom McLaughlin, and caught his son a little bit later, and got on a flight when they flew in, the jets flew in. That was pretty cool.
Pretty amazing.
For the planes. Then I did help my spouse, but I ended up at the President's breakfast for the opening the game at MSU and homecoming weekend, and the new president. So they always have a breakfast in that morning, and I helped with that. So I got a free breakfast out of it. So anyway, that concludes my report, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mark. Well, I actually had a relatively quiet last 2 weeks too, and the last week of the month has a few days in it. Don't have so many meetings, but I did have several meetings with my 403B governance language change and my emergency communication board meeting. We don't have anything actively going on there. We have a few grants we're doing, some training. And then the 403B governance rewrite, we are also doing, finishing up the 403, the first 15 chapters, with just the logistics of the ordinance itself. So that is ready to go. Had our EMS meeting, and everything is going pretty well there. They got some issues with the funding through the state, but they're getting that stuff worked out, so we haven't gotten paid for the last 2.5 months. But they're getting, the grant money is there, they just ain't getting it funneled down to our organization at this point. So we're running a little tight there, but I think they got everything pretty well figured out at this point. And hopefully that'll be cleaned up in the next couple days. And yesterday we had our MRCI board meeting, and things are going really well there, providing all the stuff. Again, we talk about it all the time, but labor. We can't find people to drive the vans. They're working on trying to pay them more money and trying to figure out a good way to get the vans out there, but they would like to have a couple hundred vans out there, and they reported yesterday they only have like 37, so they got a long ways to go. The new model is working out pretty well from what I understand, and they did sell another one of the buildings up in the cities, so they just have the MAP Drive and the old thrift store and the store next to the thrift store left to sell, so things are going well there. And that is the end of my report. So, anything else for the good of the order? Otherwise, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Got a first and a second to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for your time.
God, it's just 7
Now,
minutes
Kevin can
after
get
10. What the heck's going on?